Hello everybody and welcome back to Dollar Tree Dinners. Every Monday for the month of July, we're making the most of a rotisserie chicken. They only had lemon pepper chicken again this week, but I didn't notice a lemon flavor in any of the meals that I made last week. So I'm just gonna treat this like a normal chicken and I'm not really gonna do anything particular as far as the meals go. I made a really fun menu for this week. I think you guys are really gonna enjoy it. All right, let's grab our little chicken from out of the bag. I am thinking about trying a different method maybe next week with reheating the entire chicken. There are some reheating instructions on here, but it requires you to bake it in the oven or put it in the microwave. But for this week, we're gonna stick with the same kind of deboning procedure I've been doing for all of the rest of the chickens. So just removing the quarter portions, the legs and the thighs, and reserving those for meal number one. Then removing the skin from the breasts. And everything we remove goes back into our bag for our fourth meal, the wings included. And then again, because this is a cold chicken and it's just a little tougher to shred whenever it's cold like this, I just use a knife to carve off the breasts. And any residual meat on the breastbone will be reserved for our fourth meal. So it's really not about getting the most off of this chicken to begin with, because we do want some meat in that fourth meal. So I do try to kind of leave some behind, just kind of strategically. So there's a little bit of meat on the kind of breastbone here. There's some meat on the back. We have some meat off of the wings, and that all gets reserved for that fourth meal. Along with all of this lovely collagen that will add a lot of body to our stock. And then I just like to go ahead and remove the skins from the legs and thighs. I have had a lot of comments about the skins and, you know, making chips or crispy skins or something like that, kind of making them into a snack, and you are definitely welcome to do that. I just end up reserving it for my stock. So we've got our chicken leg quarters, we've got our two breasts, got our, that's an oyster there. Throw that with one of the quarters. I'm gonna pivot. I've always done the quarter portions first, but today I'm gonna be working with one of the breast pieces, and we're gonna be making a really simple buffalo chicken mac and cheese. So let's start by shredding up our first chicken breast. You can do this with your hands or with forks. I'm just gonna use my hands today. And I'm gonna kind of leave it in slightly bigger chunks just to make our buffalo chicken mac and cheese a little meatier. And you know, if you think about each of these meals that I've been doing, I've been, you know, making meals for two people. I would say that that's, you know, a probably 3-ounce portion of cooked chicken, which I think is really reasonable for a single meal. This one's gonna be as easy as it gets. You're gonna start with your favorite macaroni and cheese. I always try to buy the deluxe kind just because you don't need milk or butter to make it. And I've talked about this before, but I always like to slightly overcook it. So this says 8 to 10 minutes. I'll go for the higher end of that, 10 minutes. Let's drain off those noodles. Add in our cheese sauce. Noodles are kind of frying in the bottom there. I'm keeping it on the burner with the heat off just because the chicken is going in there cold. So I do want it to kind of have a little bit of residual heat to heat up the chicken. That's gonna be our next step. We're gonna add in our shredded chicken breast. And I got this little bottle of Frank's Red Hot Squeeze creamy buffalo sauce for in the dollar section. And I think it's gonna be like the perfect amount of sauce for this. You can save a little bit in the bottle if you want to for like a drizzle on top. And let's mix that all together. So chicken, so macaroni and cheese, rotisserie chicken, and buffalo sauce. And that's it, that's the whole meal. But I'm feeling a little extra today. And I have these that I've never used before. So I was thinking, trying to make this a little prettier. I'm gonna add divide my buffalo chicken mac and cheese between them. Then I'm going to add on a sprinkle of extra cheese. I'm using this pizza blend. It's one of my favorite mixes of cheese. And I'm gonna pop these in my toaster oven just to kind of crisp up that cheese on top. That is our single serve buffalo chicken mac and cheese. Again, just being a little extra with the presentation. You definitely don't have to do this. You could put it in just a baking dish, throw some cheese on it, throw it in the broiler, or you can just serve it in a bowl. I did try to save a teensy bit of this buffalo sauce for a drizzle. I think I did a good job on eyeballing that. And then I also like to top my buffalo mac and cheese with a little bit of ranch. That one's not gonna be as pretty because it's not as fine of a squeeze. I used to order buffalo chicken mac and cheese from Wawa. It was a gas station in Virginia. They serve food. Maybe you have something similar in your area, but had like a little order kiosk, and buffalo chicken mac and cheese was my go-to. The reason I really like the pizza blend cheese is because you get the cheddar for flavor, but you get that kind of stringy mozzarella cheese. And I think it's a really versatile cheese. I know it says pizza blend, but you can use it on pretty much anything. So I think this is pretty much perfect. My only change that I would have made is mix some of the shredded cheese throughout the mac and cheese and then sprinkle a little extra on top. All I did was sprinkle some on top, and it's a little cheese heavy on top, so I think it should be distributed more evenly throughout. And funny enough, as I was cooking, I was thinking to myself, like, that would make a really great meal in a bag. A box of deluxe mac and cheese, a small bottle of buffalo sauce, and some canned chicken. So I might add that into the roster of my meal in a bag series soon. So meal number 2 that I planned for this week is skillet chicken enchiladas, and I do think that this one's gonna make 2 servings plus leftovers. I think it's gonna make closer to 3 to 4 servings, but we'll see when the finished meal is done. I have my chicken leg quarters, I have an onion, some corn, black beans, red enchilada sauce, the rest of the pizza blend cheese from the buffalo mac and cheese, and then I have some corn tortilla chips. So first things first, we're gonna dice up our onion, but I'm only using half of the onion for this meal. I'll use the other half for another one. So there's a half a diced onion, and the other half of the onion we will save for later. You can go ahead and pre-chop it all at once, but I'll just chop it whenever I go to use it. I always try to plan something that I can kind of simmer for the quarter portions because we need to be able to get the meat off of the bones. And I've just found that that's the easiest way to do it. So I'm gonna start with some oil in a skillet. I'm gonna start by sauteing our diced onion. Once those onions are starting to soften up, I'm gonna go in there with a can of corn, can of black beans, rinsed and drained, and a can of red enchilada sauce. Get that all mixed together. And then I'm gonna nestle in my little chicken leg quarters here. Cover that up with a lid, and I'm gonna let it simmer for about 10 minutes. So the goal is to just simmer it long enough that the chicken is reheated and tender enough to pull off the bone. So we don't want it to dry out or get overcooked. So let's remove that. We're gonna add our shredded chicken back into our pan, along with about 2 cups of tortilla chips. And we're gonna give that all a toss. Now, these are skillet enchiladas, not skillet nachos. So the goal is for the tortilla chips to get a little soft, a little soggy. You can crush them up a little bit too. So they fit better in the skillet. Just make sure that they're all coated in that enchilada sauce. And this is my version of a recipe I saw online for skillet enchiladas. So if there's another like official name for this, please let me know. I am happy to correct myself because I know a lot of people use tortilla chips for like chilaquiles and stuff like that. So maybe there's a formal name for this specific dish. So final step is I'm gonna use the rest of my pizza blend cheese. Add that on top. Cover that up with a lid and let the cheese melt. That's gonna take another 5 minutes or so. And there we go. That is our skillet chicken enchiladas. These ones should be really nice and cheesy. Perfect. And again, I think that this makes a couple of servings plus leftovers. So potentially something you can bring to work the next day. I'm gonna be finishing mine off with a little dollop of sour cream. And if I had some cilantro, I might add some of that on there, but I don't. So I'm just gonna add a few jalapenos for a little garnish. I have made a version of this one time. It was sometime last year before I moved. I was testing it out for a video and I remember I bought corn tortillas. I cut them up into pieces. I fried them myself and then I made it. And I thought it was really good. But this go around, I was thinking to myself, like, why don't I just use tortilla chips? They're already fried corn tortillas. Let's dig into our skillet enchiladas. This one turned out really good. I love the smokiness that just kind of radiates through it from the enchilada sauce. The little sweet pops of corn. It's cheesy, it's creamy, it's meaty. I think this one turned out really good. It's pretty much exactly how I envisioned it would turn out, except I do wish it had a little bit more of an enchilada sauce flavor. So I think if you were to get the larger can of enchilada sauce, you'd have more enchilada flavor, or just reserve a small amount of the enchilada sauce to kind of drizzle on top, which would also add a little bit of color to the top. I really like the textures of this one because I'm getting that kind of crisp corn, a little bit of crunch from the onion, the softness of the tortilla chips and stuff like that. This one's a delight. I think you're gonna really love this one. And as I anticipated, that made exactly 3 servings. So little bonus lunch for the next day. We love sandwiches, so I always try to include a sandwich each week. And today I'm gonna be making one inspired by one of my favorites when I used to work at Starbucks, which was their turkey pesto provolone panini. Except for instead of turkey, we're doing rotisserie chicken. So I have a little 2-pack of sub rolls that I got for $1. I have some basil pesto, some roasted red pepper strips, and some sliced provolone cheese. If you want to save $1 on the red pepper strips, you can get these at Dollar Tree. There are a few ingredients in this video I could have gotten at Dollar Tree, but as some of you guys know, before we moved from Virginia to Washington, we sold our second vehicle. That way we didn't have to pay to ship it or anything like that. So we've had one car for the past 7 months, and we had intended to purchase a second vehicle when we sell our house in Virginia. It's been 7 months. We still have not sold our house in Virginia. So when Michael has events he has to attend for his art thing, he has to take the van. So I don't have a method of transportation, so I've been relying a little more heavily on grocery delivery. And that's why you've been seeing me use a lot of Walmart ingredients, because that is the closest store to me and it is how I can get delivery. This one is a sandwich, but it is a hot sandwich. So I'm gonna start by thinly slicing our chicken breast, kind of against the grain. And I also had a lot of questions in my last video about these plates. They were a hand-me-down from Michael's mom. She was cleaning out her house and she had these. She asked if I wanted them. They are from a brand called Dash of That. And that's all I know about them because I didn't purchase them. I was gifted them. They are a fun little pattern, aren't they? So again, I was able to get this little 2-pack of sub rolls for $1, kind of the perfect amount for these meals. And we're gonna start by, they're not sliced, so you do have to kind of slice them open. I'm actually going to cut them open all the way So into 2 complete halves. There we go. And we're gonna go on there with a smear of pesto. And then we're gonna top that with some of our roasted red pepper strips. Just about, I don't know, 5 or 6 on each sandwich. Enough that you get a little bit of red pepper in each bite. And then we're gonna load that up with our grilled chicken, our rotisserie chicken slices. Perfect. That was the perfect amount of chicken for 2 sandwiches. You used to be able to buy, I think they called it carving board turkey, carving board chicken. I haven't seen it in any stores in a while, but that's kind of what inspired this sandwich, because that's what I used to use when I made these sandwiches at home. And then I'm gonna go on each sandwich with 2 slices of provolone. And then I'm popping these in my toaster oven to melt the cheese and warm the sandwich up. So my chicken just slid off. There we go. All right. Just the bottom half for now. Let's set that to bake, and I'll do like 10 minutes. All right, about halfway through cooking, I'm gonna pop the tops back on there once that cheese kind of starts to melt so that that can get warm as well. So that is our hot turkey pesto provolone panini. Chicken pesto provolone panini. Maybe it doesn't have quite the ring to it. For cold sandwiches, I usually like to pair them with chips, but for hot sandwiches, I like to pair them with soup. And today, I just have some Campbell's tomato soup in my pantry. And that's what the inside of it looks like. So, you know, it's not much, but there's a ton of flavor from those roasted red peppers. There's a ton of flavor from the pesto, and of course that rotisserie chicken. I actually used to meal prep these sandwiches a lot because I would have them in the fridge and then I could just toss them in the toaster oven and have a really quick and easy lunch. But the caveat to that is that turkey has, I think they call it tryptophan, so it makes you kind of sleepy. So it wasn't like the ideal lunch. So I'm hoping that this chicken version holds up just as well. Because chicken doesn't do that to you. The bottom got a little crispy from the toaster oven. I also just checked, and a single sandwich at Starbucks is almost $7. They don't make this one anymore, the turkey pesto provolone panini. So I'm comparing the price to their tomato and mozzarella. They also had a ham and Swiss that was almost $8, which I feel like is ridiculously overpriced because their sandwiches, I guess they're kind of similar in size, but I do want to say they're a little bit smaller than even what I made here. As far as the sandwich goes, it did get a little crispy on the bottom from the toaster oven, but the ratios are perfect. And even though it's made with chicken, it tastes pretty on point to the turkey version. Now, as far as my soup, I just kind of rummaged through my pantry and pulled out a soup I thought would kind of go with the sandwich. And I'm kind of curious to try it because I got this at Grocery Outlet. Grocery Outlet sells a lot of like discontinued or one-off things, kind of like Dollar Tree. And I had picked up this grilled cheese flavored tomato soup. So as you can see, I had 2 cans. I just heated up one. So let's see if this grilled cheese tomato soup tastes like grilled cheese, or if there's a reason it was at Grocery Outlet. Before I tell you what I think about the soup, I'm just curious if any of you guys have tried it, what your thoughts on it are. It tastes like tomato soup with burnt bread. Like, it's not bad. And this soup tastes like it's infused with burnt toast. So I do think there was a reason it was at the Grocery Outlet. Our fourth meal is always going to be a soup. It just makes the most sense. When you get down to the bones and those last little bits of meat, it's the best way to stretch it out. I have gone ahead and made my stock. I just did it all in the slow cooker. I tossed the bones, all the residual meat. I even did the peel of that onion, and I just let this simmer on high for about 4 or 5 hours. So let's strain it. Of course, I need to let this cool enough that I can actually pick all of the meat off the bones. Time to start picking through it because it's cooled down enough now. And I'll show you at the end how much we get off of this one. It should be about the same as the last two because I carved it the same way. Whew, it's still a little hot. So there is our shredded chicken and there is our discard. So I would say that by this point you get about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of meat. So we have our chicken, we have our stock, and our soup of the week is an Olive Garden inspired creamy chicken and gnocchi soup. So we have some spinach, the other half of our onion, a package of gnocchi, and some evaporated milk. And then just for a little side dish to make it more Olive Garden authentic, I have some prepared garlic breadsticks. I'm gonna start by dicing up the other half of this onion. All right, so there's our chopped onion. And I'm also gonna chop a couple of cups of spinach. You can use frozen spinach or canned. I have done this soup with both. If you use frozen, you're gonna wanna let it thaw first. If you use canned, just drain it really well. Same thing with the frozen. So thaw it, let it drain really well. Canned, just drain it really well. You just don't want all that green liquid in your soup unless you want your soup to turn green. But I have some fresh spinach to use up. That's kind of what inspired me to make this soup. So that is what I am doing. And the spinach is gonna wilt down. So I'm just doing 2 kind of bigger handfuls of spinach and then just rough chopping it down into smaller pieces. Just enough to fill up my little bowl here. So you're gonna start with either some oil, butter, or margarine in the bottom of a pot. I have a little bit of both. I did a mixture kind of half and half just because I had a little bit of butter that I needed to use up. And I'm gonna toss in our diced onion. But again, you can do all oil, all butter, all margarine, or a combination. You just need about 1/4 cup or so of some kind of fat. Bacon fat would probably work really great here too. And next I'm gonna mix in 1/4 cup of flour. That's why we needed 1/4 cup of oil or butter to make our roux. And we're gonna let that flour cook out for another minute or 2. And once that flour has started to kind of cook down a bit, you can see I kind of use my spoon the wrong way because again, I don't have a whisk. I keep forgetting to buy one. I'm gonna add 4 cups of our stock. Let's get that all mixed together. And I'm doing 1 can of evaporated milk because evaporated milk is really commonly used as a low-cost substitute for half and half or heavy cream. So it'll give our soup a lot of richness. Evaporated milk is milk that's kind of been concentrated, reduced down by about 60%. And that's why it's really easy to swap it for heavy cream or half and half or some of those kinds of more fatty milks. Now we are gonna need to season our soup base. There's no salt in our chicken stock. We're just adding like plain ingredients. So let's just start with salt and pepper. This is an Italian soup, so I'm also gonna go in with some Italian seasoning. And I always think these are great with a little bit of heat, so I'm gonna add a little crushed red pepper as well. Because I added milk to this, I am kind of bringing it up to a boil pretty slowly. I'm not trying to rush this process. I've just got it on like medium heat right now. I don't want to scorch the milk, so you could always wait to add it until the end, but it would be hard to account for the seasoning, so that's why I just went ahead and dumped it in at the beginning so I could make sure that we got the seasonings right before we add the rest of the ingredients. Now, one interesting thing is that I did get this gnocchi at Walmart, and it was, I want to say it was almost $3. I usually buy gnocchi at Dollar Tree, which is less than half the price. But Dollar Tree gnocchi is the only gnocchi I've ever had other than what I have made myself. This will be an opportunity for me to try another brand of gnocchi because I know some people are kind of hit or miss about the kind that Dollar Tree sells. And I do kind of get it because it does have a bit of a Play-Doh taste sometimes. So I'm very used to it. It's a little bit of an acquired taste. It doesn't bother me at all. But I'm curious to know if this other brand from Walmart has a similar taste, because that will let me know whether or not like Dollar Tree's is unique. I've got my package of gnocchi and I'm just going to ladle those in. And they only take a couple of minutes to cook. We're just waiting for them to kind of float to the top. Give it a little gentle stir. And it's not a full boil yet, but that's not gonna prohibit them from cooking, so. All right, and they're already starting to float to the top. So in these last couple minutes of cooking, I'm gonna add in our chopped spinach. And our residual chicken. Give that a little gentle stir and we're gonna let that spinach wilt down. And then this is pretty much ready to serve. And that is our Olive Garden inspired creamy chicken and gnocchi soup. I think we did about 5 or 6 ingredients, including the chicken. And that's what I'm going for, you know, the chicken plus a handful of ingredients to make these meals. Of course, we have our breadsticks on the side, which those just get baked in the oven according to their box instructions. And look how hearty that is. I love all the little gnocchi in it. I think there's like a good ratio of gnocchi to broth. Little chunks of chicken in there, spinach, onion, really fantastic soup. I always like to eat my soup at the dining room table. I think it's, I mean, I'm used to eating standing up for most things because it's just the easiest thing for me to do. But soup is not my favorite to eat standing up. I feel like I have to like constantly like move over the bowl and stuff like that. So we're joining at the dining room table again for the end of this video. And the soup is quite hot. So I'm gonna start with the breadsticks. And then do a little dunkaroo, because that is definitely the best way to eat this soup is with a breadstick dunked in it. I feel like this is one of those broths that I could just drink. It doesn't really have to have any substance to it. It just has that really creamy, rich flavor. It's perfectly seasoned. The gnocchi, the chicken, the spinach, it just kind of adds to it. But the broth is really the star of the show with this. I think if you make it right, it's absolutely perfect. It's very difficult to describe its texture because it's a little thicker than a normal soup, but not as thick as like say a potato soup. Very silky. It's a very, that's the best word. That's the word I was looking for. It's a silky broth. I hate to say it, but this gnocchi is better than the gnocchi I get at Dollar Tree. Will I still buy the gnocchi at Dollar Tree? Absolutely. But my comments have always been kind of 50-50 on it. Some people love it, some people hate it. I still like to showcase it because it's still a really affordable ingredient. But I do have to say that this gnocchi doesn't have that kind of Play-Doh-y taste that I sometimes get in the Dollar Tree gnocchi. I do also have to say that this is by far one of my favorite soups, and I've never even had the original version. I've never had the soup at Olive Garden. All right, that was the perfect way to end this video. We have one more Monday left in July, and then after that, I'll come up with a new series idea for Monday. But I've really enjoyed this so far. I hope you guys have too, and I hope you get some really good ideas on ways to use rotisserie chicken. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I'll see you again tomorrow for $10 Tuesday.